So we go there in a taxi and we're sitting in the meeting and I just start bawling out crying. And I don't know why I'm crying. I'm not typically an emotional person, but sometimes I do. I do get like this overwhelming feeling of emotion, and I'm crying, and I'm like, why the hell am I crying? I don't know why I'm crying. I know now it was like God speaking to me, right? Like giving me this signal, the sign that I needed to hear. And they started talking about, simple things like do 90 meetings in 90 days, right? And I was like, oh, that sounds good. I was like, hey, listen, let's do that. And I've been in 12-step meetings because my mom struggled with drugs too. So I was the kid in the 12-step meeting. So I knew all about it. And in my head, I was like, those people are weak. I don't need that. That's not for me. So like, I've never been into like a meeting like for myself. So that was the first time ever.
I'm Art Blanchford, and this is Life in Transition. Welcome back to the Life in Transition podcast. I'm really excited to have with us today David Price. David Price is a regular dude who puts one foot in front of the other every day, regardless of what he feels like. He is recovered with the help of 12 steps, and he has an ultra successful insurance business and loves helping others be successful as well. David, I'm really excited to have you here on the Life in Transition podcast. Most welcome.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, and I appreciate being here. Super excited for this, and hopefully share some nuggets for your listeners.
Absolutely. Well, with that intro, I'm sure that there is, and with the discovery call we had ahead of time, let me ask you, David, like from your perspective now, what would be the most impactful transition that you've been through, or the most important transition that you've been through in your life?
Yeah, I mean, that's a simple one. I struggled with drugs for 20 years of my life. So going from using drugs to not using drugs has definitely impacted my life greatly. And it's, as I say that, I'm like thinking about it and I'm like, well, there's so many times in my life I thought I was clean and thought I was off drugs, but like I wasn't actually practicing total abstinence. And I didn't really understand that or understand what that meant. So as I say that, right, I feel like if I was listening to this, like, oh yeah, I did that, I done this, I done that. But it wasn't until, I really practiced total abstinence from any mind or mood altering substance. And then from there, like it just opened the door. It's like doors just kept opening as I got walking through the steps, and it wasn't an overnight thing, right? It feels overnight. It looks like overnight from the outside possibly, but like, it was, hey, I'm clean, but I don't have a car. I'm in debt and I'm sleeping on my grandma's pull-out couch. And, I need to get a ride any place I go from a friend, but like I'm clean to, now where, things are, you get people to drive you now, like, you pay people to drive you now, right? Right. So, but yeah, definitely getting clean was, it was good too, because you get to live, right? Because a lot of my friends didn't make it, right? So it's so many benefits of not doing drugs. It's great. You would have thought I'd figure that out sooner.
Yeah, but I think that's actually being a little bit too harsh, because we all have addictions unless we've done recovery, and it doesn't have to be 12-step, right? But most people are addicted to something. Drugs and alcohol are just obvious ones. A lot of times because people become really dysfunctional. But I mean, in my case, I was addicted to work, which people think, oh, that's wonderful. Well, not really. It can also kill you, and it can also ruin your relationships, just like any other addiction. So I think that the fact that you said is it looks like it happens overnight, but it doesn't. It comes in waves, and it's 2 steps forward and 3 steps back and 3 steps forward and 1 step back. And that's all part of the process. The beautiful thing is when you can get to a place where you talk about now, where you don't have any addictions left, right? Where you can be with yourself. Can you be with the horrible alone and be comfortable with that, right? And you don't need anything else to fix you or to numb you or to make you okay. And that's a beautiful place. And there's not too many people actually get there. And the people that I know, a lot of people that I know that have been through recovery, even if it's been a really tough path, they might be more spiritually awake and aware and living healthier life now, even if they've been through a really tough recovery, than someone who never had the opportunity to do it. So it's, I have a lot of respect for the journey that you've been on. I mean, it's really, it's not an easy one. And I think there's a lot of people also that are what an AA called dry drunks, right? Yeah, you might be technically sober from alcohol, but you're definitely not spiritually healed yet. That's very different.
Absolutely. When you say addicted, like, I think about, some people are just addicted to negativity. But you said something really, really cool that like took me back, and it was like, one, being alone, like being okay with being alone by yourself. And I love being alone, probably too much. But I think that one of the biggest gifts was like the ability for your head to hit the pillow and for you to fall asleep right away. Because that was a struggle and a war, both using and clean for a long, long time. And I track it, right? I got my Whoop, so I track it all. And
you got my Garmin, right?
I got a Garmin as well. I tried the Whoop out. I would definitely stick with the Garmin. Once my year is up with the Whoop, unless it proves itself to me, I'm going back to stick with the Garmin. But yeah, like 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, like from pillow to sleep, and that is that's probably that's better the gift than most others. That's a really good thing. To be
so let me ask you a question on that too. The gift of sleeping quickly is really a gift. Are you able to sleep through the night, or do you wake up and spin sometimes in the night?
No, I sleep very well. That's awesome. I do a lot too, right? Well, I mean, I think I would sleep well naturally, but now I'm just like most things in my life, I'm trying to optimize and do the best I can. So Garmin, most of them have like a sleep score. And so I'm looking at that sleep score, and then that's actually why I end up getting a Whoop as well, and it's trying to get the best quality sleep. So I do things like go to sleep at the same time every single night, go to sleep on an empty stomach, don't drink liquids after a certain time. So again, just like everything else, and it's I love it. I love trying. Yeah. I love creating a target and like just trying to figure out like how do you get perfect sleep? Like who would have the answer to that, right? So it's like something I'm working on. So far I got two, maybe in about 2 months probably since I had my Whoop. I 2 perfect night sleep.
100%.
Yeah, two. But I had the Garmin for 5 years. I've never had 100% on a Garmin. I want to say
I don't think I've ever had 100%. No, I've had 95 or 97, right?
Yeah,
I don't think
97's high. I don't know, like 96, but
my average is probably like 80. Right?
Yeah, it's the Garmin. So the Garmin apparently it gives you like negative points for moving in your sleep is what I read.
Restlessness and
moving where
if your RV is too low or too high, or if your oxygen changes too much, like if you're at altitude or something, right?
That's it. Yes.
Sleep is super important, and I've always been able to go to sleep well, but in the last couple of years, I've been waking up and spinning, and I've found the new strategy while I was hiking the Appalachian Trail last month. Not the whole thing, but I will do the whole thing, but I'm doing step by step, and reading with a red light, a red LED, like my hiking red LED, reading some sort of spiritual book. Even if I wake up at 3:00 and spinning a little bit, I go right back to sleep. And I did that while I was on the trail as well. And and the sleep on the trail was amazing. I mean, it's being outside and being in nature, moving, and, it was really, really great. But I want to come back to this, David. So you talked about the transition to sobriety, but the different steps that it took. And there was a point, though, that I could tell when you were talking where it felt like a tipping point. When was that? Like, when was the tipping point of where you felt like you had this monster of at least a drug addiction off your back?
Yeah, I think about there's so many times in my life I tried to quit drugs, or it wasn't really drugs, it was to quit the particular substance, my drug of choice, which I'll share openly. I've done it before, but it was heroin, right? I was a IV heroin user for very close to 20 years, like 19 years probably. Right. And again, like lucky, like just grateful to be alive, period.
Sure.
But, I was at this spot. I was living in New Jersey, where I'm from. And I was living in, I would call him a friend, but he wasn't a friend. He's someone I used with, right? Yeah. You think they're friends at the time. And
that's right. They're the only social contact you have.
They don't. But so I'm at his apartment, and he ended up abandoning the apartment. Like, he stopped paying rent. He's not paying electricity anymore. He just left. So now I'm just staying there with the girlfriend at the time, who we're both struggling. And it was the winter in New Jersey. So this apartment's freezing cold. It still had gas. So I'm like, oh, no problem. I have an idea. Like I'll fill the pot up with water and put it on the gas burner, and that like warm the place up. Like all it did was steam the heck out of the place. So now we're in a cold place. All the windows are all steamed.
High humidity. Right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It was didn't warm anything up. And I was like, dude, I need something different. So I woke her up in the morning. I was up earlier, and I was like, "Listen, we're going to Louisiana." She's like, "Louisiana? Why Louisiana?" I was like, "Don't worry, we got drugs." Like basically, like that was the answer, right? And as soon as I said that, she's like, "Okay, we're there." And drove to Louisiana because that's where my father, who I didn't really have a relationship with, or at least I really despise. Like I despise my father. I eventually got to forgive him right before he passed, but then so we're in Louisiana. You know, he's struggling with drugs. Like he's like, as soon as I get there, he asks me if I want a pill, and like I detoxed the way there. So like I was planning on getting clean, like leaving the area.
Oh wow, okay.
And you know, I drank a couple times. I did a couple little pills. Like, you know, my drug of choice, I didn't do it there. I didn't know how to find it, which was the whole point of it. And I did some things, and I was just like, you know, I'm just so over this. And it was my birthday. And I was we had a taxi driving us around. This was before Uber. I had no car. So we had the one taxi driver we always called. So like literally I'm hanging out with a taxi driver at his apartment with his girlfriend, my girlfriend, and we're like drinking some beers at it might be like apartment pool or something. And that was like my birthday. I'm like, dude, this is so bad. Like I'm hanging out with the taxi driver. Right. And I was so over it. And something my girlfriend at the time was like stealing from my family. And I was like, do you need to stop stealing from the family? Like, what are you doing? I was like, let's go to one of those 12-step meetings. Maybe those people at NA, right? You know, maybe they can help you. And like in my head, like I'm thinking that to help her. And
maybe they can help her, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And I take a taxi there. Again, I don't have a car. I own 2 bags of clothes. I'm sleeping on a pull-out couch. And I'm thinking my life's okay and I'm in control. So we go there in a taxi and we're sitting in the meeting, and I just start bawling out crying. And I don't know why I'm crying. I'm not typically an emotional person, but sometimes I do. I do get like this overwhelming feeling of emotion, and I'm crying, and I'm like, why the hell am I crying? I don't know why I'm crying. I know now it was like God speaking to me, right? Like giving me this signal, the sign that I needed to hear. And they started talking about, you know, simple things like do 90 meetings in 90 days, right? And I was like, oh, that sounds good. I was like, hey, listen, let's do that. Again, me trying to help her. And then my ego is like, all right, I'm going to do the 90 meetings in 90 days to show her. And I never used again from that point. I never, that was like, and I've been in 12-step meetings because my mom struggled with drugs too. So I was the kid in the 12-step meeting. So I knew all about it. And in my head, I was like, those people are weak. I don't need that. That's not for me. So like, I've never been into like a meeting like for myself. So that was the first time ever. And that was I'd never used again. And to me, it was, I won't say it was simple. It was simple, but not easy.
That's right.
Because I just did what they said. I went to at least one meeting every single day for a year straight. I mean, there's some days I went to 2, 3 meetings every single day. I purposely didn't get a job or a car. Right. So I had to ask people in recovery for rides. I had to like, it was full submersion. Like it was full, like on, like, this is it. And the reason I did that, because every time I got clean before my life, what would happen is usually it's because I lost my job. And I'm like, all right, I lost my job. Like, I like money. I like nice things. So even though I always wanted to keep an appearance, and I always like stuff. So like as soon as I lose my job, my income stops. I'm like, all right, I need to fix this now. Like panic a button.
So you get sober for a little while so you could get another job. And
that's it. I would detox myself on the couch. Wouldn't go to rehab like everyone else, puking, the whole thing. Get a job, but then I would get a job at a competitor making more money. And then as soon as like my bank account's fixed and everything's fixed, I start using it again because I'm like, I'm back in control. I got things covered. So this time I didn't do anything for a year. For 1 year, I just worked on my spirit. At a year is when I got a job. And then it was just like the doors just kept opening for me. Like it's such a, I wasn't spiritual before this, right? I wasn't a spiritual person. I was the kind of person that would say I'm a Christian just because I don't want to tell you I'm atheist.
Don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. Right? Some people are like, I'm an atheist. I feel like they want attention. Like, I'm a Christian. Just, I don't want to have the conversation about God with you. Right.
Yeah.
And then now, like looking back, like, it was my sponsor. Right. And the crazy thing is, my sponsor, I picked my sponsor because he owned a house. He had a job making 6 figures a year as an engineer. And for me, like, those are the things I was attracted to. What I didn't realize he was really, really spiritual. And again, God gave me what I needed at the time.
Right.
And that's changed my life. He introduced me to God, basically, or he showed me that God's been there the whole time and made me really understand, what that meant. And that changed everything for my life, from personal to business to finance to relationships.
When was that year when you moved to Louisiana?
2012.
2012. Okay, so 13 years ago. What's the biggest learning that you had from that transition, from getting clean and I'll say that whole year of spiritual growth?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I learned was really about ego. So I feel like we're all like taught, like, if I'm like, hey, you have a big ego, right? In people's heads, it's like, oh, Art thinks he's better than everyone else, right? David, you have an ego. David thinks he's better than everyone else. And that's how, like, I understood ego. And then what I started realizing, or what I learned, was ego is just like the inability to learn or the inability to ask for help. And that was me, right? So when I told you, like, oh, my mom was at the 12-step meetings, I was the kid there. We used to go to we lived in New Jersey, so we went to the beach after the meetings. I went on like NA events, like kayaking, like, for a little part of my life, as a younger, maybe like an early teenager, like, that was a big part of our life. Like, my mom was very, very active. And for me to know so many people, I mean, I knew people that worked in the NA world that were like friends with my mom, so I knew like a lot of people that had a ton of clean time, but like my ego was like, no, that's for them. Like, they're weak-minded. They need that help. I don't need that help. I'm under control. I can stop when I want to. Right. So like, that was my whole thought process. So after getting clean and then like sitting there with somebody who's like, no, Dave, like, you have an ego issue. Like, you don't ask for help. And like, really just like when that stuff started clicking, I was like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. And then like to get off the 12-step, for a little bit, then it was like Tony Robbins said the same thing. Basically, he's like, if you want to be successful, find someone that did what you want to do and just model it.
Model them.
And
which
I remember,
is also a way of asking for help. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, it was because that was early in my 12-step career. I ran into like a Tony Robbins audiobook and I didn't really even know who he was. And like, when he said that, I was like, oh my God. And then that was when I like went into like this full like self-development, like junkie, like learn everything I can. And that started just changing. And then now it's like real simple. It's like when I want to know how to do something, like I'm like, all right, it's real estate. Let me call my real estate guy, and the thing is, what I do too is when I, like, my friend, he sends me properties to buy, like I don't even look at it. Like, I'm just like, give me a contract. Because I'm just super coachable when it comes to like, if that's the person I trust with that part of my life and I ask him for advice, like I'm just taking it. Right. So many times people will ask me for advice, but they don't take it, And for me, it's like when that person that handles that part of my life, like if I ask them, like I'm rolling with it. And sometimes I won't ask the advice too, because I know, like, all right, like I got to be ready to act, because if they tell me to do this, I'm doing it, or there's no point of asking.
No, that's right. That's right. I call that the speed of trust. Like in business, when I was running a big business, that's the speed of trust, right? It's very fast if you really have trust, and then you need to follow. And if you don't, then don't bother to ask, right?
Absolutely.
And don't do it. No, I think that's beautiful to talk about ego as being this inability to ask for help. And I think about, in my own journey with that, like when I'm really being driven by ego, I'm either thinking I'm Superman or despicable. Like it's a huge gap, but you can't. What's not okay is just to sort of be one among many, and be in a growth mindset, right? Be something where you can just learn and learn from others. And I think that's really beautiful. I was reflecting as you were saying about, you started the spiritual journey and learning about God, and I was at a workshop with Richard Rohr and a couple of other really amazing spiritual lights a couple of weeks ago in New Mexico. And the CEO of Homeboys was there. The guy that just retired as CEO of Homeboys, which is the gang rehabilitation. nonprofit in LA. And he said something that I never heard before. I mean, I'm a little bit of I don't like the word junkie, but personal growth and development, avid, avid guy, right? But he said at Homeboys, he said, I learned this coming into Homeboys, coming from business and coming into Homeboys. And I learned it from members, clients at Homeboys, that healing can only begin when we accept God's 100% unconditional love for us.
Like it.
And I was like, and that I think requires the dissolution of the ego to accept with all of our flaws and all of our strength and gold, all of it, right? That we can be loved 100% with no conditions and no strings attached. It requires letting go of all that, letting go of being in control. And I think that's something I've been leaning into these last weeks since I was at that workshop to think about, okay, how do I do that? And how do I live that every day? And the takeaway, so that was the takeaway from Tom Vaza, was this guy, and the takeaways from Richard Rohr was that God doesn't love us because we're good. There's nothing we can do to earn it. There's nothing we can do to let go of it. God loves us because he is good, or she is good, or whatever it is. Higher power is good. So those are some things that I was thinking about when I was talking with you, and thinking about that. Even to accept God's love requires me to let go of this construct of who I am outside of God, which is the ego, which doesn't allow me to ask for help. And I like the way you put that. It's not necessarily being arrogant, but it's not asking for help or totally subjugating ourselves on the other end of it as well. This episode of the Life in Transition podcast is brought to you by MidLife Transition Mastery. If you have reached midlife and you are successful, you have checked all the boxes. You've done everything you thought you should do, and especially pleasing everybody else, doing what you think everyone else needs you to do. But you still feel like something's missing. Like you're coming up empty, feeling alone, feeling misguided or lost. MidLife Transition Mastery Explorer community is for you. Here we will build authentic community. We will learn about the 8 steps to mastering midlife transition. And we will learn and execute living life with no regrets in our second half. Please check out the community on lifeintransition.online/MLTM, Midlife Transition Mastery. And I look forward to seeing you around the fire in this community. So if you could go back, well, and maybe I'll take it, not a tangent here, but I know from our discovery call that, and you've said in the introduction too, that you're also like ultra successful in the insurance business. So I'm guessing you've been in the insurance business before you got clean. I'm not sure if that's the case. No,
it was after I got clean. Thank goodness.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
So so you started in a new business. I mean, I know it's your own business now too. It's not working for somebody else, but you started in the insurance business after you got clean. And you've had a meteoric run. So maybe tell us a little bit about that transition. When did you make the decision to start in that business? What drove you in that direction? And what have you achieved and learned in that space?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is I've done so many different jobs, careers, and as I'm like working on myself and just learning new skills, right? And learning to ask for help and learn these things. I always wanted to be a business owner, but I typically would just take jobs, right? It was just me settling. And I own a construction company, and I ended up having to walk from that. My business partner ended up starting to get high with my employees. And we invoiced $800,000 the first 8 months in business. Like we were
holy cow,
absolutely crushing it. There was a big flood in Louisiana. Over 200,000 houses got flooded. So it was really, again, not simple, but like the opportunity was there. I mean, I was knocking on doors all day long doing estimates. I had a crew come in from New Jersey to do all the work. So it was great. But then he started using, and I was like, man, it's like, this sucks. And I started talking to my accountant. He had a law degree too. I'm like, dude, I don't know what to do. He's like, your partner's the problem, not your business. Like, you need to get rid of him. And I made a mistake. So I needed somebody to do the estimates. I didn't know how to do estimates. And my friend that knew how to do estimates, he was out of work. And I was like, man, you want to do estimates? We'll do 50-50. We'll start a company together. And I gave him 50% ownership. So like I had no extra say.
So you couldn't get him out.
Yeah, I couldn't. So I was just like, you know what? I know how this ends. So I literally walked into the license department and just took my name off the license. Like just walked for my own company basically. Right. And so now I'm looking for a new business. And for me, I'm like, all right, construction was great. The problem with construction was there's so many people, right? It was very people dependent.
Yes.
For example, we were doing like a custom tile job for a guy. He was a chief financial officer at a company, very successful friend of mine, went to the same gym as me. And I show up at the house to check it out, and he's drunk. And my worker's drunk. And I was like, crap, I can't even fire him because I have no one else to do this tile. So I had to like keep him through that, right? So I'm like, man, I'm a prisoner to my own people. So I wanted a business that I can do from anywhere, that I could work with anyone I want, and that basically just gave me total freedom. So I'm like, all right, what is that? So I'm looking at franchises, right? So I'm like in this whole modeling system thing, I'm looking at different franchises. My buddy just opened up a gym in like the Miami area. He was having a ton of success. He went from like training people in his apartment complex gym to a 5,000 square foot facility. So like, hey, will you coach me on this? And he's like, I will, but you should talk to so-and-so. They're doing really good with insurance. And I was like, okay, insurance is a good business, right? Everyone knows insurance. It's been around forever. Warren Buffett makes tons of money from insurance. Like
everybody needs it. Yeah.
It's a real thing. So I'm like, all right. And I always thought I wasn't qualified. I thought you need like a 4-year degree to sell insurance. So I find out in most states, you only need a 20-hour course that you could do like right online, pay a couple $100 and then pay for your license. I mean, you can get your license for $300-$400. So I'm like, okay, well, that's super simple. So the next thing is like, remember, I worked in construction because there was a bunch of houses that got flooded. So there's a huge demand. Like it was super, like you pull in a neighborhood, everyone needed their house fixed, right? And there wasn't enough local people to deal with that. So I'm like, all right, well, I need to see if it's like how am I going to find my people? And it's like, oh, we run TV commercials, we have a lead program. And I was like, okay, so you already have people looking for this product you're selling. Like, yeah, it's like, okay, and I could build a sales team to like help these people. They're like, yeah. I was like, all right. And at what point will you not have enough people to like, where I have to, like, no, there'll always be enough people looking for insurance that you will keep a sales team of any size busy. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a business I want to be in, right? And then, there's residuals, passive income, no inventory, right? So like, big thing is doing storm work. You go to Home Depot, everything's sold out. They're messing up stuff. Like all those things, my friend has a mechanic shop. I'm like, he's limited by how many cars he could fit in his shop, right? Like there's so many different things that affect other businesses that does not affect insurance. So I'm like, oh, this is it. All right. So step one, learn how to sell insurance, right? And that's what I did. So my first year, I worked morning to night, and I say my first years, I basically worked until I had tears in my eyes every single day, like to where I was just so stressed out,
exhausted and stressed.
Yes,
exactly. And this was in 2014, 2015 timeframe.
This was 2018. So I got my license. 2018. Yeah. Okay. So there was some time before I found insurance
between the construction company and that. Okay.
Yeah. And I did some stuff. I repoed cars. I worked offshore. Actually, my first job getting clean. And I think this is a really good message because I've never worked for minimum wage since I was a teenager. But when it was time to get a job of that year, now I'm like desperate, right? And I don't really know many people in Louisiana and what I am used to doing, I didn't really have any connections for that. So my first job I took was cleaning toilets, washing dishes, working as a galley hand offshore. And the thought process was that was minimum wage, $7.25 an hour at the time. And my thought process was like, it doesn't matter. I just need to start. And that's what I told the guys, like, listen, I don't care. Give me any job over there. They're going to see how I work. They're going to see, my attitude. They're going to see how I do things, and I'll move up one way or another. And I did, and everything worked. And then ended up going into repoing cars and then construction. And then eventually I was like, all right, I need to get out of Louisiana. So that was another reason why I was looking for another business. I want to get back by the beach and move to Florida. But yeah, so I got my insurance license and learned how to sell insurance. And I started learning how to teach people how to sell insurance. Then it was teaching me how to build insurance agencies of their own. And now we live in a virtual world, and it's so great that I can teach a single mom how to sell insurance and then build her own virtual insurance agency. And she's never got to leave her house, and she's never got to miss her kids, or dance recital or anything like that, or soccer game. And we have agents all over the country, and it's great. It's so cool because we impact so many people on the client side. We sold over 1,500 policies this month. So that's 1,500.
Holy cow, 1,500 policies this month, David.
Just this month. So this will be this is another record month. Last month it was a record. The month before that was a record. I mean, this year we're at over $10 million in production. So that's about 10,000
this calendar year already. Yeah. So you're over $1 million a month this year in production.
Yeah. So we just hit 1.5 million actually today. So it's October 28th. So we hit 1.5 million today, which is another record. Wow. The month's still not there. We hit a record. I think we did 1.4 and change. So we're growing. We have a great system that proves we have a great system. We have amazing leads. And then we have people that care about helping people. So they just talk on the phone and help the person with insurance. Who would have known?
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I want to come back to something because I want to emphasize this. No matter what, I think about my own kids. They're young adults now, but anytime anybody that's going through a big transition, like you said, get something and start out. Start doing something. Start doing the work. Right. Start engaging. Like a lot of us, especially. And I went through this too. Oh, I'm some big executive. If I do anything in the future, it's got to pay $1 million a year, and it's got to be start. Whatever it is that you want to do, start and engage, and then see where it takes you. But don't be afraid to start wherever that is. You don't have to start on the top of the mountain, and I think that's really important. And even in your insurance company, you started at the bottom again. All right, you started from scratch and worked your way up. But congratulations on building it to the point that you have. Where do you think your life would be now if you hadn't? And I'll come back to this year of spiritual growth. If you hadn't gone through that year of spiritual growth, where do you think your life would be now, David?
Yeah. I'll answer that. That's a bringing me back. But I just wanted to add something too, just to put stuff in perspective. When I say I took my job at $7.25 an hour, my previous job while I was using was $70,000 a year, car allowance, 401k. Working in an office, managed 40 people. Right, so it was like. I had a guy who was in charge of me. He was the cook. And he's like, "You're using too much soap to wash the dishes." I'm like, "Okay, really? Like, is that a thing?" So again, so that's why it's like so important. Like what you said, I think that's like such a great message. It's like, dude, just start. Like so many people are like, "Oh, I'm not washing dishes. I'm not cleaning toilets. I'm not working for minimum wage." Well, I feel like me doing that is what God kept opening those doors for me. It's because I was just willing to do what it took. He put something in front of me. I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." Yeah. And then the next door opened.
Yeah. But I think that's I just have to park on that for a second because step 11, for those of you that don't know 12 step is, pray to know God's will for us and have the power to carry that out. And that's really what it all is. And it's really, I was on with a coach a minute ago and, I was saying that the difference I feel now, having been through this transition, I've been through the last 6 months, is that I don't feel attached to the outcome of things.
That's the magic.
Right. I can know that I don't know what's going to happen, and it's okay. Always before in my life, I either needed to know what was going to happen, like feel like I was controlling it, or it wasn't okay. Like it's possible I felt like it wasn't in my control, but then it's not okay. And now for the first time in my life, like, hey, that's what it is, right? Okay, God, you put something in front of me, but then it's our part, right? The power to carry it out. Go do that, whatever it is, and put the ego out of the way, right? Like be willing to learn. If you go back to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Robert Kiyosaki, right? What do you work to learn? You own to earn, right? So look at it that way. But I think that's really beautiful, and to get started with that. So thank you for making that point and to knowing where you come from, something that everyone would have considered successful, and then you're going back to minimum wage. Well, it's okay. Start and engage, and then see where the power of compounding takes you if you're willing to put in the energy, and see what doors God opens for you along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And then go back to the last question is, where would my life be?
Where would you be?
Yeah, without
made that year.
Yeah, so definitely nowhere where it is now. I mean, so I manage 100 and something people. We have produced, I think 160 people we had produced last month, hired over 1,000 agents over the last year. And, so many of the business practices I practice in my business are like based off of the stuff I learned in that spiritual journey, right? And like when I don't know what to do, I think about like the 12-step program, and I think about the principles, and I think about all those things. So it gives me the answers, and and like you said, just making decisions, and not feel like you have to control the outcome, and you're talking about like letting, believing in God and like letting God control things, right? Basically. And like to me, it's like when you said that, I'm like thinking, I'm like, yeah, like even if you don't believe in, you say you don't believe in God, you don't believe in spiritual stuff, you don't believe, like, doesn't life seem a lot simpler when you let some mystical being control everything instead of you trying to control it? Like just practice that, and that was basically was like taught to me. It was like, God's love, and God needs a name, and you could call him God or you could call him something else, but God just fits. And let God control your life, and stop trying to control it. I was like, oh.
And even if we don't believe in God, even if there isn't some higher power or mystical thing, we still don't control it.
No, we control
right.
nothing.
That's a fact, right? I mean, I had Ellen Langer was on this podcast recently, and she talked about that. And I think she's agnostic at best, but she said, listen, the fact is we don't control it.
Yeah.
Right? We think we do. We don't. Like, we make decisions. You don't ever make the right decision. You make a decision and then you make it right.
I like that.
Right? Yeah. After the fact. But we haven't, and we're fooling ourselves if we think we know how it's going to turn out.
Exactly.
Right? And so that doesn't require belief in God or not. It's just fact. Right? So, and if we can let go of that, right, and recognize that it's an adventure and observe the adventure. Right? I like what Michael Singer says down here in Alachua, Florida. He says, our only job is to watch what's going on and appreciate it.
I like it.
We were 14 billion years getting here. 99.99% of it was not us that got us here. And our job is to pay attention and enjoy and see what happens. Right. And that's it. So I think that's, clearly it wouldn't be where it is. And it's also great to see that you're running your life by it. Right. And I was also struck by, you even said, as you started 12-step, you were already doing the 12th step. You were doing it at the time, even in your mind, for service for your girlfriend.
Yeah. It's funny. Like, that's what needed to happen to get me in that room. Right. It was, exactly. She was the bait, right? That God used to get me in the room, and as we're talking, so it's like trusting God and trusting the process. So I got to my insurance career. I was working with one carrier, and I was exclusively working with them. And, in short, without getting into details, people, including myself, weren't happy on how they were treating agents. Like it was a good place for a while, and things just started changing. And it became a really hard place for agents to be successful. And at the time, I'm making 6 figures passively a month, right? Life is absolutely amazing.
Per month.
Absolutely. Yeah. Life is absolutely amazing. More money than I ever thought I would make. Like, I could be in Costa Rica for the whole month and my pay doesn't change, right? And that was, it was over 2 years I was making 6 figures consistently every single month, right? So like, life's great. And I had to make a decision, because I was like, listen, I can't be the one making all the money and the agents not have a chance to succeed. And I decided I was going to add some other insurance carriers to work with. And for my contract and everything, like, that should not have been an issue. Right. Well, the minute they see me do it, and I'm not ignorant. I knew it was coming. So this was the whole acting God. It's like, all right, well, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to add some insurance carriers. And the minute I do, my pay is going to stop. Right. And you make that kind of money. You have more bills now, right? You different lifestyle, different expectations. Things can turn around upside down real fast. And I made the decision to do it anyway. And I was just like, you know what? Like, and I had to do a lot of soul searching. And like, understand, like, I was basically like halfway retired, and I was like, I'm gonna have to go back to work. I'm gonna start all over again. Like, it may never get back to where I was. Agents may not want to work with me anymore, right? They may want to stay working with, like, all these different scenarios went through my head. And I had said, you know what? I've been through worse. Right. Like, I've been through it all. And this was a year ago. So it was October 4th.
Oh, wow. This is very recent.
This was a year ago. So October 4th. So we were doing 1.5 million a month in production average. And November, we did 282,000, right? Spent way more money that month than came in. and was like, whew, all right, this is going to be a long uphill battle. So that's what's really significant actually about this month is this month
getting back to where you were just a year ago,
a year later. And everyone's happier. Everyone's making more money. Like it became the best decision. And I risked, my livelihood. I risked everything for it. But again, it was just like trusting God, trusting process.
And I think the thing that I'm starting to see, David, is that like what you just said, and I would have said the same thing. I risked everything. I risked my livelihood. But those two things are not the same thing, right? If you had stayed there, you would have been risking your soul. Like you would have been slowly suffocating yourself because you're not living in alignment with your own values. Like if your agents can't make a good living as well, and you don't like the integrity of the place that you're working with, which obviously if they cut you off from one day to the next, they don't have integrity, to be honest. No matter what the situation was, you made them a ton of money as well. So we say that a lot, like where we risked everything or we risked our livelihood or because we measure so much in this country just by money. Mm-hmm. But you can make money again and you can heal your soul again too. But if you continue chasing money at the expense of your soul, at some point it's going to kill you straight up, right? Whatever that is. And maybe you get into an addiction again to cover it up or something else. But I think it's interesting to see that you risked your whole livelihood for sure. You risked your business, you risked your income. Absolutely. And you served your soul well in making that choice. And now your income is back.
Yeah. It's great you said it that way because that's what I had to do. So a lot of times what people will do, and I hope this is a great message that somebody grabs a hold of, right? Because we can do a lot of things one day at a time. Right. We can suffer. We can suffer really, really good one day at a time. And we'll take it day by day. Right. So we'll sit in a job we don't like. We'll sit in that relationship we don't like. That thing we don't like. And that was the thing. I could have done that day by day. Real simple. Right. Yeah. And I was like, okay, let's really put on a lens. Can I do this for the next 10 years?
Right.
And that was the decision. I'm not willing to do this for 10 more years.
Right.
And that's when I was like, once I was understood that to that level, I'm like, all right, it's time to make I'd rather not have as much money than to deal with this for 10 more years. I'd rather not have a lot of the nice things that I had. And that was it. Because like you said, it wasn't the money, it wasn't this, it was how they made me feel.
That's right.
That's what it was. It's how they made the feel. And like that needed to be improved. And that wasn't going to be improved unless I made a drastic change. And
that drastic change isn't going to get easier 10 years from now.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're 10 years older and have maybe a little bit less energy or whatever the case is.
That's the thing. Yeah. Yep. Just like when I started my insurance business, I was like in my mid-30s. I was like, you know what? There's nothing I've done in my life up until this point that was the path to the future that I wanted. Right. Every job I took, everything I took, it was settling. Like it wasn't like it might have been a good job. I might have thought, or I rationalized I was good, but nothing was like to give me the freedom that I dreamed of when I was a teenager. So like, I was like, I need to find that. It doesn't mean I'll get the freedom, but at least I'm on like that path that at least I have a chance. And that's right. That was the goal. Like when I was looking for a new business, it's like, I'm not going to do something that's not going to give me total freedom. Like there has to be a chance. Doesn't mean it's a given, but at least, working, as an employee somewhere, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it wasn't my goal or dream. Yeah. That wasn't going to get me somewhere. So even if someone's like, hey Dave, I'll give you $100,000 a year. Like that wasn't going to give me the, having a boss have to call every time I'm sick wasn't going to give me the freedom that I wanted. Right. It wasn't about the money. It was like the freedom.
Yeah. This episode of the Life in Transition podcast is brought to you by Transition Mastery Coaching. If you have made it to midlife and you're successful and you are going through transitions in your life, in your business, in your career, or in your organization, and you are looking to master those transitions, to make the most of them, to accelerate into the next phase of your organization or your life, if you're facing challenges in your business, challenges in your relationship, challenges in your health, and you really want to transition those quickly, I'm here to guide you for that. And I look forward to working with you. You can sign up for either Pinnacle Transition Coaching or Summit. Please go to lifeintransition.online/MLTM and scroll to see the Summit and Pinnacle Coaching. or reach out to me directly on my email, art@artblanchford.com. And I look forward to connecting with you and helping you to accelerate your transitions to achieve what it is that you want to achieve in the second half in your organization and in your life, so you can live your whole life with no regrets. Now, and I think that's a beautiful point. And I think it's, the reason I was smiling so big there, David, is just reflecting on this for myself. Like, even, after leaving corporate America, where I was making very, very good money and have been, doing various businesses that are really purposeful and helping people and coaching and so forth. But what really lights me up, and this is what I was talking about with my coach just a minute ago, right before this call, is doing the podcast. But I never saw it as a business. But why not? She's like, why not? Why not start to see it as a business? Because that's what you love to do. And that, so that whatever that thing is that lights you up, that's what I got. This summer has been incredibly tough for me. I've been more depressed and down than I've ever been in my life, even with all this good stuff in my life. And the one thing that lit me up that would bring me joy was going to the Appalachian Trail. I've been thinking about that for 5 years, to go hike the Appalachian Trail. And I started in Maine, heading south by myself. Awesome. Most rugged environment there is in the eastern United States. And it was amazing, the connection I had with nature, with God, with the community. I mean, and the clarity that I got. And in there was like, hey, lean into your podcast. Why? Just because it brings you joy. This is what you love to do. That's it. Right? So to not, yes, we have to have a certain money to live. There's no doubt. But you can make that even minimum wage and still do something else that you love if you need to. Right? So, or maybe minimum wage today, it's maybe not quite livable, but you can find a way to get by. So I think that's really beautiful that you're willing to go for the freedom, which is the thing that juices you, that is your ember, and leaning into that and giving the energy to that, to turn that ember into a fire, that really becomes purifying and big enough to support a lot of people, right? And do a lot of good. That's beautiful. If there's one thing you would go back and tell your younger self, David, 2013 or 15, what would you say? What would you like him to know that maybe he didn't know back then?
So 2000. So after I got,
or like as you started that year of spiritual transformation.
Okay.
With 12 steps, as you're starting in on that journey, or maybe right before it or right after it, what would you want to tell yourself now that now that you didn't know at that point?
It's a harder question for me. At first I thought we were gonna younger self, like teenage self, and for that one, it's simple. Like is like everything you're doing, do the best of your ability, right? So like if you're sitting in a classroom for school, like don't just like sit there and wait for the time to pass. Like whether you like to learn or not, you're there, so you might as well open up that book and learn, right? And that's every part of like and that moves into being an adult. Like if you're at work and you're like, don't just sit there and like waste and like not utilize your time. Like whether you're getting paid for it or not, don't not utilize your time. But you're talking about my just getting clean, and like I don't know if I would tell myself anything, because I'm so happy with where I'm at that I wouldn't want to give myself some information, right? Because that's the thing. It's like we
risk the process.
Yeah, it's like no, like that person needs to find out exactly what he found out in the process that he found out. One of the reasons why. Beautiful. Yeah. I went to a lot of meetings, right? Is, a lot of times, like I wanted to go see the cute girl at the meeting, nothing spiritual about that. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter the reason if it gets you there.
But it got me there, right? And that was it, and got me there to hear the next thing I needed to hear, to do the next thing, to do the next thing.
Absolutely.
It was like a quest, and it was like, if you knew the whole story, like maybe I wouldn't have followed it. Maybe I would have been like one of those people like, all right, I'm healed, I'm going to go get high now, or I could drink and I can't do this. Like I am very grateful for the journey to be exactly like it is. I'm grateful that I was cleaning toilets for $7.25 an hour. So when I'm hiring an agent and they're trying to be a little priss and this and that, or they should be making, I'm like, dude, I clean toilets for $7.25 an hour, and was told by my boss I was using too much soap to wash dishes. Like I don't, doing 12-hour shifts for 14, like I lived offshore for 14 days at a time, 12-hour shifts, $7.25 an hour. Like I don't, had to take a boat to get out there, have to, like, you name it. I've done it. Right. and for me, like, that's really cool because it's relatable, right? You know, if I was given everything and everything was simple, it would be so much harder for me to coach and mentor people, because like, Dave, you don't understand my struggle. Like, okay, cool. Let's talk about struggle. We could talk about struggle. Let's lay our struggles out on the table and see if you want to take yours back or you want to take mine. So yeah, no,
I think that's beautiful. And I think that says a lot about where you are now, and the spiritual maturity you have now, that you recognize that the journey was, you wouldn't even want to have any other knowledge because the journey was what was needed to get you here.
Absolutely.
And that's a great sense of peace to be walking in your daily life with. I have two more questions for you.
Sure.
The first one is, for someone that's going through a dark night of the soul right now, what's one tool that you would give them? Someone that's going through a transition or is really, not all transitions are dark nights of the soul, but going through like your transition, which was really tough. Someone's struggling right now. What's the one tool that you would give them that they can take and use right now to start moving in the direction that's going to lift them up instead of continuing to tear them down?
Yeah, you know, I'm going to give two tools, and one is movement. You know, you know, I'm going to give three tools, and it's such a valid topic. And you know, my mother, she was struggling with addiction. I mean, not addiction, well, addiction as well, but not too long ago, a few years ago, depression. She was struggling with depression. Yeah. She got really close to her mother, my grandmother, when she was dying from cancer, and you know, feels that she should have been there for her, even though there was nothing she could have done at that point. And she was there. She just wasn't there when she went to the bathroom and passed away. Right. You know, there's like nothing logical about it, but emotionally, like it's her truth.
It doesn't. Yeah.
And you know, and I tell her all the time, like, Mom, I need to walk. I need you to walk. I need you to walk. I need you to walk. Right. Like just that simple thing. Cause I know for me, like I struggled with depression like crazy. And like, I just stayed on the couch. I just watched movies. Like I didn't get no movement. Right. So like movement, one. And then the second one is find a mission. So what I did with my mom is I bought my grandma's house. So we ended up buying my grandma's house, and I turned it into an Airbnb, and my mom manages it. And like, got her out of bed. Like she wasn't getting out of bed for like days. Like she's out of bed, she's cleaning, she's messaging the guests. She asked how old their kids are, so she could set the house up special depending on the age of the kids. Like I gave her a mission, right? So like got her completely out of depression. She's taking less medications now, you know, and it's a process, right? It wasn't like she just recently started taking less medication after a couple of years, right? But you know, it was definitely a process. And then the third one, this is real simple. You don't have to buy a house to do it or even get out of your seat, but gratitude. You know, when people come to me and they're in like negative land, you know, real simple, like give me three things you're grateful for. Because if you're, and it might, like, if you have to dig and think about it, that's fine. But like sit there and like really like, what are you grateful for? Not everyone gets to wake up every day. Like, that's right. And and we all know someone that didn't wake up when they're supposed to. Right. So like real simple to get into gratitude. So it's like, write down three things that you're grateful for. You know, so, you know, find a mission, find something. And listen, your mission could be putting a puzzle together. Your mission could be, you know, helping someone, you know, taking someone to church. It could be anything, but like something that you need to do. Right. And you're providing a service, you know, and pay it or not pay it to me. It's all the same, you know, and move. Like, don't just, you know, your body was meant to move, just like an airplane or like a car. Like, I mean, everyone had a broken car that they didn't fix. And then it was just sitting there, and for some reason it got more and more broke just sitting there, right? Like things are meant to move. And again, gratitude. Like you, it's really hard to be upset when you're grateful.
Yeah. No, I think those are all beautiful things, and I think that, you know, the movement, it can just be as simple as, like you said, just going for a walk, right? But moving, and even when you talked about getting your job at $7.25 an hour, that was a type of movement. Instead of sitting on the sidelines of life and of economics, you got into the movement, even if it's at $7.25 an hour. Right. So I think that's, and medically speaking, movement is more effective for every mental health disorder and every physical health disorder than any other, even specific design medicine or anything else. For all of them, the top 10 killers from mental health and physical health, movement is the number one cure.
A walk is amazing. I mean, even like, you know, I work out pretty heavy at the gym and for intense hours. If I add a 45-minute walk, like in the evenings, like I even like noticed my body change just from that. Not to mention the, like everything, just walk out 15 minutes and then walk back 15 minutes, like 30 minutes, like anyone could do it. Don't go to the gym to use the treadmill, like walk out your front door for 15 minutes,
absolutely.
turn around for 15 minutes, then do 20, Or if you're, have problems moving around, walk to your mailbox and back. Right?
Walk 1 minute, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes,
and then just because, when I got clean, right? So like I'm working offshore, I'm overweight. I finally quit smoking. I'm in like the worst shape of my life. And I was working in the kitchen, right, offshore. So like I'm making this ice cream and I'm putting chocolate syrup. I'm crushing up Kit Kats, putting on top, putting M&Ms, and I'm about to eat this like giant bowl of sugar. I'm like, holy crap, this is my new job. This is my new life. I can eat like this every day. And I sure as heck will, because I've done it before, right? Because addiction's real in my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or I could make a change. I was like, I need to make a change. And typically, right, what I would have done in my life is like, all right, I'm only going to eat chicken and broccoli, and I'm going to start sprinting, and I'm going to run an hour a day, and then I'm going to work out.
That's impossible. Yeah.
I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk 20 minutes a day on the treadmill. I'm going to stop drinking soda. Once I master those two things, then I'll do the next. Then I'll do, and that was it. So it's the same thing. It's like, find something you could definitely do, master that, and then it go from walking 15 minutes to walking 20. Eventually, like you will want to jog on the treadmill, like because like you'll want to start jog.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I remember last year I ran rim to rim to rim in the Grand Canyon, 50 miles, 13,000 feet of vertical.
That's amazing.
18 hours, 30 degrees to 112 degrees. 2003, I was so stressed at my job and I wasn't moving, but I decided to do Tony Robbins' 15 minutes to fulfillment each morning just because I was stressed, right? So I'm going to go out and I'm going to do these incantations and walk for 15 minutes. That's what I started with, 15 minutes every morning. And then eventually I put a 5-minute jog in the middle of that 15 minutes. And then by the time I turned 50, I'm doing Ironman and running the Grand Canyon. And they don't understand. It started with a 5-minute jog. With 15-minute walk. Yep. Right. So, that's and that's why I asked you for one tool, and you gave 3, but they're all 3 simple ones because it has to be something that's attainable. It can't be something that we set ourselves up to make it impossible, right? To do something like that. I like to over deliver. I hope. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So, last simple question, David. If people want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to connect with you and find out a little bit more about you, about your business, about who you are, and so forth? Yeah, of course. So, all over social media. Go by David Price Official on most platforms. So, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Are all David Price Official. YouTube, I have a YouTube channel. If someone wants to really get to know me, they watch some of my videos. Again, that's David Price Official. And then X, I am David Price. They don't take David Price Official. It's too many letters. Right? So I hope they change that soon so I could fix it. So it's definitely, but you can buy it next. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he'll sell it. He'll sell you a letter. But yeah, David Price Official on Instagram or Facebook would probably be the best ways if you guys use that. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. Of course, we'll have your full bio and all your connections and so forth in the show notes. But I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate the concrete and vulnerable conversation that we've had today. David, I think your story can really make a big difference for a lot of people. And it's very inspiring to me as well. So thank you so much for joining us on Life in Transition podcast today. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was great. Love the question. I love talking about it. I didn't talk about my recovery for a long time until I had success, and it's for the exact reason is to help somebody. So thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot. I can't wait to hear what action you are taking. Connect with me on LinkedIn or our website, lifeintransition.online, and let me know. Let a friend know too. It could be a huge encouragement to them and keep you on the track. Thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and it would mean a lot to me if you left a review and shared this episode with a friend. If you want to learn more about me and what I do when I'm not podcasting, please visit me at artblanchford.com. Thank you for listening. Together, let's make the most of life in transition.